Fang was just a normal spirit farmer who grew fruits and vegetables that boosted magic and strength in those who ate them. His life was simple, selling his crops and making a living. But everything changed when, on his way home, he witnessed a necromancer killing someone. When the necromancer noticed him, he tried to kill Fang too, but Fang managed to grab his farm tool and break free. Because of the loud commotion and fearing the Awakener Association, the necromancer decided to take over Fang's body and rushed into him. But to his shock, Fang carried a god system inside him. It killed the necromancer instantly and merged Fang's power with his, turning Fang into a necromancer farmer. Awakened with a forbidden talent, Fang runs away from the scene to hide his powers and acted like a farmer to survive, but little did he know his life had already changed completely. It all starts 300 years after the Great Disaster. Magic spiraled out of control. The demon race descended from the skies and began a long, brutal war against humanity. After that war, the human population dropped sharply, and society collapsed. 10 powerful people awakened great magic and created huge protective barriers. These barriers held back the invading demons, letting humanity survive for a while. Humanity then entered a new age. When people reached adulthood, each person awakened a profession. The 10 original powerhouses turned their professions into inherited professions. Each of these inherited professions could exist in only one person at a time, becoming pillars for all of humanity. At Feishuan City, the sky was bright and clear. It was the year 335, April 1st, on the Cataclysm calendar. The profession awakening ceremony was about to start. A cart stopped in front of tall buildings, and someone called out that they had arrived. A young man named Fang stepped down from the vehicle and thanked his Uncle Zhang. The large plaza was crowded. People gathered for the annual awakening test. Fang looked around in amazement, thinking, the annual awakening test truly lives up to its reputation. It's packed. When people reached adulthood, they took the awakening test. Professions had different ranks: N rank, R rank, S rank, SR rank, and UR rank. Higher rank professions had stronger combat power, and those who awakened rare professions could directly enter elite academies. Young people walked among tall statues of past profession holders, praying for good luck. Fang watched them quietly. A voice from the crowd prayed to one of the statues, asking the great berserker to bless them so they could awaken at least an SR rank profession. But another loud voice came from the crowd, telling the people in front to hurry because the speaker's test was coming soon. Nearby, Fang stood silently, watching the line. A girl prayed toward a statue, saying that she admired Lady Tianu since childhood, and asking her for a blessing to awaken the most noble inherited profession. Hearing this, others thought it was funny and wondered who would daydream like that in broad daylight. Seeing those students, Fang then turned to someone beside him and asked what the people were doing. The other person looked surprised and asked Fang if he didn't know. He explained that there was a rumor that this year's test would produce a new inherited profession holder. He added that there were currently 4 vacant inherited professions, so it was natural that everyone was praying hard. Hearing that, Fang felt that everyone's eagerness to advance seemed stronger than usual this year. To him, that meant business would be good. Suddenly, bright magical fireworks burst in the sky, signaling the start of the testing. Someone shouted for everyone to hurry, because the tests had officially begun. Inside the hall, the examiners read out the results one by one. They announced that Lin Hu awakened an R-rank profession at level 10 with 13 magic power. Then they reported Winsa as an N-rank profession at level 8 with 8 magic power. After that, they announced Gu Fai, who awakened an S-rank profession at level 34 with 55 magic power. And Gu Fai was accepted. A student with short hair was shocked to hear that Gu Fai actually had 55 magic power, and he wished he had that much magic power too. When Fen heard that, he immediately held up a bright red tomato and asked that short-haired man if he would like a tomato that could increase magic power. The short-haired man looked shocked at the offer. He asked in disbelief if it was really a tomato that increased magic power. Fen explained that he was a spirit plant doctor, and this tomato was a premium variety he had carefully cultivated. He also said that each tomato increased magic power by 5% within 5 minutes, and that each one cost only 5 gold coins. He then showed a bag filled with different spirit plants: tomatoes, long cucumbers, sweet potatoes, and small yellow beans. He said that he also had hunger sweet potatoes that kept someone full for a whole day, fat-burning cucumbers, and strongman beans that increased attack power by 10%. Hearing that, 2 people nearby whispered among themselves. One of them wondered if this was a scam because he had never heard of spirit plants like these. Another person questioned how something could increase magic power and help someone lose weight. The short-haired man holding the tomato told them to just buy one and try it for themselves. He said they could check the buff effect after eating it, and complained that he was tired of eating energy bars every day. Fang leaned forward with a confident smile. He announced that it was first come, first served. He said the quantity was limited, and once they were gone, they were gone. Then he added that the first customer could try one for free. Hearing that, the short-haired man stared at the tomato in his hand with a doubtful face. He looked tense and unsure. He then took a bite of the tomato. His face was still hesitant, but he bit into it anyway. Right after eating it, his expression changed completely. He clenched his fists with excitement as a bright glow of energy appeared behind him. He shouted that his magic power really increased and that his body felt lighter. A blond young man nearby stared in shock and asked if he was seeing things because he knew that the spirit plant vegetables were developed by the Extraordinary Academy's agricultural department, and he heard they were usually supplied to SR-rank professions. Fang told that man that this was a special promotion for the test convention, since everyone here had the potential to become academy students. Hearing that, the blond man's eyes lit up, and he quickly asked Fang to wrap all of the vegetables for him. Hearing that, a small crowd gathered around to buy those vegetables and grew angry. One person complained loudly, saying he was here first. Another shouted that he wanted 10. Someone else praised the tomatoes, calling them extraordinary produce. Another excited person said that his magic power really did get a boost. Fang watched the scene with a small smile. He thought about his situation. He knew that even though he had only a farmer profession, ever since he maxed his level, all the vegetables and fruits he grew gave beneficial buffs. He admitted to himself that he used some marketing tactics, but the effects of his produce were real. After selling all of his vegetables, Fang sat alone in front of a certain shop. He was packing his bag quietly and was about to leave, but suddenly noticed someone coming toward him. When he looked up, he saw that same blond man from before approaching. Seeing that blond man, Fang listed the things he sold: chestnut pumpkin seeds for 5 gold, flower rhino manure for 7 gold, grape wine making sugar for 10 gold, and some magic power boosting potions worth 257 gold. After listing everything, he handed over 10 gold to that blond man and said it was his payment. This blond man was Fang's friend, who helped him sell his vegetables by boasting about them as a customer. As the blond man accepted the coins, Fang complained that he didn't have enough money left to buy premium fertilizer for improving his fields. The blond man thanked him, calling him Brother Fang. He said the spirit plants were very useful and asked why he didn't grow more. Hearing that, Fang got annoyed and hit the blond man, asking if he thought growing spirit plants with such effects was easy. Later, the two of them walked together under a clear blue sky. The blond man said it was a shame because Fang had high talent since childhood, yet he was only. But before he could complete his words, Fang interrupted and told him to hurry home, saying Aunt Zhou was waiting for him. Then Fensturi walked alone under a bridge thinking about what that blond man was saying. Although people called him a genius since childhood, he only awakened the N-rank farmer profession. He recalled that when he went to burn paper offerings for his deceased father who had been an archdruid, he was scared his father might jump out of the coffin. Thinking positively, he said that maybe this was karmic balance, since he had a herbalist mother and an archdruid father, yet he became a farmer. But in truth, he was satisfied with his peaceful life. He felt relieved that he did not have to go to the battlefield and die like his father, and that his mother would not have to worry. As he walked forward, he said that even if it was only for his mother's sake, he must take care of their family farm properly. But suddenly a single drop of water fell on his face. He looked up in confusion. He asked himself why it was raining when the sky was clear. But wind suddenly swirled around him, and a man came falling toward him from the sky. That man fell toward the street with a terrified face. Finge watched in shock as the man crashed into the ground. He panicked and wondered what was happening. He asked if the wall had broken, or if demons had invaded. But before he could understand anything, that fallen man lying on the ground suddenly woke up. He was surrounded by broken stone pieces. His bag and a lantern lay beside him. The injured man on the ground held a small device tightly. With panic in his eyes, he spoke quickly that the inherited profession holder, necromancer Heishao, had betrayed them and was trying to transfer his profession inheritance to the demon race. That injured man thought to himself that he needed to notify someone as soon as possible. But before he could act, a huge dark claw wrapped in purple light appeared above him. The claw's power made the air shake as it moved toward him. The man looked terrified as the purple energy surrounded him. Fang, watching from a distance, was shocked, wondering what was happening. He could not believe that someone could transfer an inherited profession to the demon race. He questioned if that was even possible. Suddenly, a demon-like figure, whose whole body was covered in purple energy, appeared and crushed that injured man. His dark voice echoed in the purple haze. He called that injured man a fool, who saw everything but instead of running, he was rushing to his death. That demon-like figure grabbed his shoulder and thought that if he hadn't been injured by forbidden magic he would have escaped the city already. And once he transferred his inherited profession to the demon race, he would gain an immortal body. But since he had been delayed for so long, the academy had probably noticed his actions by now. But suddenly, the demon's eyes narrowed sharply, as it sensed something. At his side, Fang, while trembling, tried to sneak away from there slowly because he had stumbled into a murder scene. He thought that since the demon had not noticed him yet, he should quietly slip away. He began tiptoeing backward, trying to leave without making a sound. But before he could, that demon surrounded by swirling purple energy extended his hand toward Fang, asking if he had ever said Fang could leave. He grabbed Fang by the collar and lifted him into the air. The demon told Fang that the person who had just died was the famous Dean Ye of the Extraordinary Academy. He said the dean died pitifully and asked if he should use Fang's blood and bones as an offering to honor the dead dean. Fang gritted his teeth as purple energy wrapped around him. He thought that this twisted pervert demon's magic power was terrifying. He could not break free at all. Holding his breath, Fang tried to stay calm. He asked himself if there was anything he could use, anything that could drive the demon away. Suddenly, he noticed a small farming tool floating nearby, glowing with purple light. Fang extended his hand toward it and used his Farm Tool Mastery Max Skills derivative skill Farm Tool Summoning. He reached out and grabbed the summoned tool. As he gripped it tightly, he spoke in a firm tone. He said that making an offering was the kind of thing one should do personally, not rely on someone else to perform. Saying that, he struck the demon's hand with full power, telling the demon that he would descend to the 18th level of hell. Femel's attack injured the demon, who let go of him. The demon looked shocked, saying this was impossible. He could not understand how the kid, who clearly had a simple farmer profession, managed to injure him. As Fang broke free from the demon's hand, he backed away. To fight back, he looked around and saw a fallen tool on the ground near that dead man. He reached forward quickly and grabbed the object, which looked like a lantern-type device glowing with purple light. Fang activated that lantern, and a huge blue beam of energy shot toward the demon. The beam struck the demon with overwhelming force. To defend, the demon gathered purple energy. A dark, swirling sphere formed in front of him, with many purple tendrils stretching out like roots in the air. The impact caused a massive explosion of purple and blue energy. Dust filled the air. When the smoke began to clear, the demon stood again. His armor cracked, his expression filled with rage. But before that demon could attack, strange purple spinning shapes appeared in the air above Fang. Purple markings circled around him from every direction. The demon immediately recognized those shapes and, in frustration, said it was the array dancer's marking formation. That demon crouched low as purple energy swirled around him. He glared forward with sharp eyes and said that if he could not escape, he would simply possess Fang's body and leave. Purple energy wrapped around the demon's body as he charged at Fang with full speed, giving Fang no time to even react. Fang let out pained sounds as the demon entered his body. The swirling energy closed around his body, pulling him toward the dark figure. Inside Fang's mind, the demon smirked and told Fang that even though he had the lowest profession, his talent was still decent, and he should feel lucky to become his vessel. Hearing that, Fang laughed nervously. Blue energy circles moved around him as he spoke. He said that he had been training since childhood without skipping a single day, so if the demon wanted to take over his body, he would have to work a little harder. But the demon remained confident. His voice echoed again, saying that inferior was inferior, and his power was something Fang would never reach. And the next second, Fang fell to the ground. Purple chains of energy wrapped around him tightly. He looked down weakly and said it seemed like luck was not on his side this time. His hand slowly reached out toward a knife lying just within his reach. As his fingers stretched toward it, Fang grabbed it and raised the sharp knife in his hand while dark purple energy surrounded him. His eyes were firm as he told the demon that they should both go down together happily. Hearing that, the demon became alarmed. He tried to stop Fang, asking what he was doing. But the next second, Fang stabbed himself hard in the stomach. Blood burst out as he held the knife tightly. He shouted that even if they both perished together, he would never give up his body. Fang's vision started to fade. In his thoughts he spoke to his father, saying he did not want to go over there and get scolded. His body fell to the ground, his eyes were closed, and purple energy wrapped tightly around him. But suddenly, a glowing golden light formed from his chest. The light grew brighter and brighter, spreading around him. That demon stared at the glow with fear and confusion. He wondered what the dazzling light was and asked himself if Fang's magic power was erupting. The next second, a blinding golden light burst open in the sky. The demon below looked up at it with shock as the golden beams spread out in all directions like glowing branches. Then that light wrapped around the demon's body. He stepped back in fear. His voice shook as he shouted that this could not be happening. He shouted that it was impossible. But more golden strands tightened around him. They spun faster and faster, forming a thick cocoon of golden lines around his entire body. The cocoon glowed even brighter, twisting with great force. In the next moment, a violent blast erupted from inside it. Purple power and shattered pieces flew out as something inside was destroyed. At that time, a purple system window appeared in the darkness. It displayed a message congratulating Fen, saying he had acquired a new talent, inherited profession, necromancer. Then sometime later, Fen's eyes snapped open in shock while he was lying on the ground. He stared at his hands and his wounded clothes. With disbelief in his voice, he said he was still alive. Fen checked his body in confusion as he spoke. He said he could still control his own body and wondered if the demon trying to possess him had failed. He sat on the ground with a calm face and opened his system status window. A glowing purple screen floated in front of him, and he read the information on it. Fen looked at the glowing screen with a serious expression as he read the details of his new abilities. His name was written on it, along with his profession, Spirit Farm Master, Mutated/Unique. He looked at the screen with a calm and curious expression. Then he scrolled to another panel that showed the full list of his status information. His name was Lin Feng, profession Spirit Farm Master, which was mutated and unique. He was level 1 with 300 strength, 300 constitution, 100 agility, 110 magic power, 100 spirit, and 300 luck points. His skills were rapid land clearing, efficient planting, rapid harvesting, yield increase, farm tool mastery at max level, undead affinity, passive, transcendent growth, basic, undead summoning, basic, and soul extraction, passive. Fang stared at the screen closely. His eyes widened as he realized that his level had reset to 1, but all his maxed out farmer attributes were still there. Looking closely, he found that his magic power had increased as well because of that demon's soul force. With this, he realized that once he leveled up again, his attributes could break past the old limits of the farmer class. But he looked annoyed as he read the list of new skills. Among them, he noticed the undead summoning. He muttered that he could actually summon undead, but he hoped it would not summon that guy. Fang activated his farming skill, and in his left hand, green energy swirled around his fingers. In the next moment, Fang raised his right hand and used the other power he was feeling before. This time, purple lightning-like energy wrapped around his fingers. He stared at it with shock, watching the power rise through the air. Then Fen combined both of those energies and saw green and purple energies mixing inside his hand. He slowly realized what was happening. The farmer's magic power was merging together with the undead magic power. His face turned tense. He closed his eyes for a moment as he understood that something inside him had changed. He saw his glowing profession chart filled with symbols. He saw a green calm chart, and then he saw another chart releasing violent purple lightning. His profession tree was forming new branches. With a worried look, he realized that his profession tree had split. He had not changed classes. He had gained an additional profession. Fang stared at it in disbelief. He recognized one of the symbols of that purple chart, and understood what it meant. That demon who entered his body earlier was actually an awakener of a legendary inherited profession, necromancer. He looked at that demon's purple figure lying on the ground and wondered in disbelief if this guy was a necromancer. The profession tree continued glowing. Purple electricity ran across it. Fang looked at his own hand again. A swirling green-purple power pulsed inside his palm. He could feel that the power still did not belong to him. He became anxious. He knew that if he couldn't tame this energy and fully turn it into his own power, something dangerous would happen. His farmer profession would collapse, disappear, and his consciousness might be devoured by that demon again. Feng covered his face, embarrassed. He glanced at the profession tree, and thought that the yellow color on his own farming icons looked dirty and earthy. Feng stood inside a glowing purple magic circle. Purple runes floated around him as he raised his hand and activated the skill Undead Summoning. Right after that, purple energy cracked the ground as the space around him shook. Broken pieces of the ground floated into the air as purple lightning hit the necromancer and the human he killed before. The purple energy swirled wildly as something began to appear inside the circle. Two figures slowly formed from the purple light. One had a body shining like a pale blue phantom. He was Yue Ye, level 1 undead sage. The second figure appeared glowing bright purple with sharp armor and long hair. He was He Xiao, level 1 undead wild hunt. Fang looked at them and realized it was really that human, and the necromancer. Even though their levels had been reset, all their abilities were still preserved, and they could level up again. After all that commotion, he knew the law enforcement squad was on the way, so he needed to leave quickly. He immediately turned to leave because he also understood that no one would believe an ordinary farmer could kill two extraordinary individuals. Instead, if anyone found out about his current situation, it could bring serious danger to him. So Fang walked away with his backpack, but he was determined and said that the urgent priority was to find a place that could give him protection, resources, and high-tier land. Haitu wanted a place where he could test and control his dangerous new power and turn his dad's theories into reality. Then one day later, Fang went to his family farmland, which was clear and bright. Fang walked along the open fields, looking troubled. He thought about how a full day had passed, yet the necromancer's influence on his profession still had not faded. But leaving that aside, he opened his laptop to watch the news. A man in a suit appeared on the finance channel. He greeted the audience and announced that the day marked the birthday of a veteran agricultural teacher. Back on the farmland, Fang inspected a young plant in his hand. Purple lightning wrapped around his fingers as he examined the sprout closely. He noticed that every crop affected by his new power was turning strange. Around him, the mutated plants grew unnaturally. Green vines thickened, stretching under a sky filled with purple energy. The stems twisted into complex shapes, forming net-like structures that shimmered under the sun. Soon, one plant swelled into a large cabbage-like bulb. Purple energy pulsed from within its leaves. The bulb shook and then burst open, releasing thick smoke. Suddenly, a long dark vine shot out and grabbed a small bird mid-flight. Sharp purple spikes rose from the plant as the bird struggled in the air. Fang looked at it in shock. His mouth hung open as he stared at the monstrous plant spreading across the field. He raised his voice in disbelief, wondering what he was even looking at. Panic crept into his face as he realized the danger. If people saw these strange creations, he feared they would mistake it for a demon invasion. Fang immediately grabbed a shovel and started digging, saying that he needed to dispose of the mutated crops as fast as possible. He stared at the cabbage he had just disposed of, and thought about how his new magic power had caused terrifying mutations in ordinary plants. He wondered if, by guiding this power properly, he could use it to grow crops on purpose. Thinking about it, he believed that if he learned to control this power, he might create the special plant varieties his father had imagined but never succeeded in cultivating. He imagined growing high-value crops that could raise a person's profession level. While he was thinking all that, urgent news suddenly appeared on the television. A serious-looking news presenter announced that inherited profession holder necromancer He Xiao had started a rebellion the previous day and had killed Dean Yue Ye. The anchor stated that He Xiao's crimes were severe. He also said that anyone with information would be rewarded, and helping him in any way would be treated as a crime. Fang watched the screen quietly. He thought to himself that things had unfolded exactly as expected. He reminded himself that he must never let anyone find out he possessed the necromancer's undead power. He looked around at the equipment stacked against the wall, and thought that he needed to give proper names to his undead servants so they could pass inspections. Otherwise, there would be trouble. Suddenly an idea popped up in his mind, his eyes lighting up as if he had just come up with a clever idea. He said that he would simply call his undead servants farm servants, because his profession panel already listed him as a spirit farm master. To him it sounded completely normal for a farm master to have a few servants. Just as he was thinking, the news reporter announced that in order to deal with growing demon pressure, the Extraordinary Academy was expanding its enrollment. The reporter explained that anyone who passed the assessment would receive resource support from the Academy, and would even be given private estates capable of producing high-tier crops along with special subsidies. The reporter added that enrolled students would be able to hire farmers to help them grow high-recovery crops. Hearing this, Fang thought that the Academy's land was safe, fertile, and well supported with resources. He realized that this was exactly what he needed right now. He thought about his own situation. His necromancer identity was a dangerous secret, like a ticking time bomb. But Spirit Farm Master, to everyone else, that was just a harmless farmer. He told himself that he had to get into the Academy, no matter what. Then, some days later, at the Extraordinary Academy Registration Plaza, inside the registration hall, a row of examiners in black suits sat behind a long desk. One of the men asked for the next applicant's information. He looked up and said in a flat tone that they needed the applicant's name, age, awakened profession, and level. Fang stepped forward. He carried his backpack and calmly stated that he was 18 years old, and that his profession was Spirit Farm Master, Level 1. Hearing that, one of the examiners repeated the words Spirit Farm Master with confusion. He scanned the documents in his hand and frowned. He said he had never heard of that profession, and assumed it was another non-combat job trying to sneak in. He told Fang to release his profession aura. Fang lifted his hand, and a green aura formed around it, swirling like spiritual energy. The examiner stared at it with disdain. He leaned back, unimpressed, and called it the garbage aura of a farmer profession. He waved dismissively, and told him not to waste his time, then shouted for the next applicant. Nearby students began laughing loudly. One mocked the name Spirit Farm Master, asking if Fang had made it up himself. Another joked that it was hilarious for a level 1 farmer to even think about applying. They told him to go back to farming. More voices joined in, saying that Instructor Li was right and that someone like Fang would only drag down the school's standards. They said they wouldn't even hire him to work their own fields. But Fang stood facing them without reacting. He looked toward Instructor Li and spoke steadily. He explained that his profession was a mutated profession. He asked the instructor to give him a chance. He added that his fundamentals were solid and that he would not disappoint. But the instructor grew angry and shouted that solid fundamentals meant nothing for someone who was only level 1. He said a level 1 person couldn't possibly have any real foundation. Then he ordered the security guards to throw Fang out. Hearing that, Fang stepped forward, calmly, and reminded the instructor of the rules. He said the recruitment notice clearly stated that all professionals were allowed to take the test. He warned the instructor to be careful, saying he might even report him. Fen Trun then held up his phone. With a smug look, he pretended to call the supervision bureau and said there was a teacher refusing to let him take the academy exam. Hearing that, the instructor panicked. He rushed forward and grabbed the phone from Feng's hand. His face twisted in anger as he shouted at Feng. He threatened him, saying that if Feng dared to report him, he would make him regret it. He also said he didn't believe a level 1 farmer could ever pass the exam. Nearby students whispered to each other. Some said that even if Feng was a farmer-type profession, the instructor's attitude was too much. Others said Instructor Li's behavior seemed excessive. One of them mentioned hearing that the instructor failed a promotion exam and could only work at the admissions office now. Hearing them talking, the instructor shouted loudly at everyone. He told anyone who didn't want to take the test to get lost, his voice full of irritation as the crowd watched. Then sometime later, the group began walking behind the instructor. Feng followed among the other students. Soon they arrived at a huge building covered with giant twisted wooden roots. Many people stood outside it. The instructor looked back and spoke, telling Feng that he could still admit defeat now if he wanted. But Feng walked forward calmly and thanked the instructor for leading the way. The entrance was covered with wooden boards marked with warning signs. 2 glowing portals appeared on the ground and Feng stepped toward them with the others. Inside the structure, Feng flew through the air, bouncing between the thick wooden roots. He managed to land on one of the roots and caught his balance. Feng narrowed his eyes and said that it was time to let the horned rabbits experience the terror of industrialized farming. He then sat down and pulled out a jar filled with orange powder. With a confident smile, he explained that this carrot essence powder was his newest creation. According to him, it could easily lure even level 20 mighty rabbits, so dealing with these low-level horned rabbits would be simple. He said it was a piece of cake. He then knelt on the ground, sprinkling the carrot essence powder carefully over the soil. A thin trail of powder spread out around him as he worked. Then immediately carrots grew on the ground. A few minutes later, a small pink horned rabbit appeared. It sat happily among the grass with several carrots lying in front of it, looking excited as it stared at the food. But suddenly, Fang's powerful undead, covered in dark purple energy, rushed forward. Their attack hit the rabbit instantly, knocking it away with a burst of lightning-like force. Fang stood before his 2 summoned warriors. One was dark and sharp with blue and black armor, the other wrapped in glowing purple energy. He told them that waiting for rabbits was too slow and instructed them to listen carefully. He ordered both of them to make sure no one else saw them and to kill every horned rabbit that had been lured nearby. He looked determined and said they should kill as many as possible. Right after that, the 2 undead warriors burst out with bright blue and purple energy, shooting forward through the giant wooden roots. The purple undead used its massive sword and cut down many horned rabbits in one slice. Meanwhile, many horned rabbits flew into the air, trapped inside glowing blue bubbles. The dark blue armored undead floated among them, controlling the swirling energy around the captured rabbits. And then, with a flick of his finger, he killed all of them. Feng watched them and whispered to himself that the 2 undead following him were still incredibly strong, even though they were only level 1. He felt he had really gotten lucky. But suddenly, a loud bell rang, and a voice announced that time was up. Outside, Examiner Li in a black suit stood before the big tent and ordered all examinees to come out and hand in the rabbit horns they had collected. Students lined up to submit what they gathered. Examiner Li shouted at each person harshly. Someone who brought 2 horns failed. Someone with 3 also failed. Another person with none was told to get as far away as possible. Some students complained that rabbits were usually easy to find, wondering why they were so rare this time. Another student said that getting 4 horns was decent because many people didn't find even one and would have to wait for the next recruitment. Then Fang stepped forward. Examiner Li looked at him with annoyance and called him trash, saying he probably didn't have a single horn and should hand over whatever little he had. But instead of answering, Fang raised his hand, and a glowing green magic circle formed around his fingers as he opened his inventory with a confident smile on his face. The next moment, a huge wave of pink-horned rabbits came crashing into the tent like a tidal flood. Dozens upon dozens of fluffy bodies piled up, burying the rude examiner under them until only his arms and legs stuck out. Other students stared in shock as the rabbits kept tumbling forward, filling the entire space. Fang stood calmly in the background, watching the chaos he had created. Examiner Li and the staff member beside him looked at those rabbits in shock. Fang smiled slightly and told them that he had a total of 500 horned rabbit horns. He politely asked if they wanted to count them. The examiner's face twisted in disbelief. He stuttered in panic. and accused Fang of cheating. But suddenly the teaching director appeared. He stepped forward with a stern expression and scolded the examiner, asking how someone his age could still bully a child. The examiner froze and nervously asked why the director was there. The director said that if he hadn't come, all of his pet rabbits would have been wiped out by people with no professional ethics. The director then looked at Fang and told him that he had passed the preliminary test. Hearing that, Fang bowed deeply toward him and thanked him for being fair. But when the director saw Fang's face, he got shocked. He stared closely at Fang and said that Fang gave him a familiar feeling, and asked if Fang knew why. Hearing that, Fang's eyes narrowed slightly. A tiny bead of sweat slid down his cheek. He stayed silent, but his expression showed clear unease. He walked back as his thoughts surfaced. He wondered if he had been exposed. His face hardened with worry as he looked ahead, unsure of what the director had figured out.